getting straight into the round 23 review. Thursday night, we had the Titans versus the Storm. The Storm beat the Titans by 14 points. It was actually a decent game. The Titans led 16-12 at halftime, and they were putting in a really, really good shift. Jaden Campbell at fullback's really impressive. I think he, as much as AJ Brimson's an incredible player and has been in Origin teams in the past 18 months, I think Jaden Campbell's the future there. I think fullback's such an important position, and you need someone who is as involved as possible, is as dangerous with all their touches, and Jaden Campbell sort of suits the mold of the other fullbacks in the competition, where Brimson's sort of, I actually think Brimson's more suited to the 5/8 role, where maybe a halfback can dominate the game, like run the game, and then Brimson can sort of be a fifth tackle option guy. He can produce something every 3 or 4 sets, some piece of magic, line breaking, running speed, good footwork at the line. I just don't think nowadays, the way the fullback position has evolved, I don't think Brimson has what it takes to be a fullback, especially relative to Jaden Campbell, who looks absolutely electric with all his touches. So yeah, that's going to be a really interesting one to see the Titans deal with in the next 6 months, because I'm pretty sure Jaden Campbell will see out the rest of the year. I don't think Brimson's going to come back. So yeah, that's going to be a huge decision to make. I know Brimson grew up in the juniors playing in the halves, so I think that would make more sense. There was rumours of him, like, for example, coming to the Tigers to play 6, I'm pretty sure. So I'm not sure if he has an interest in that. But to me, if I was a Titans, that's the way I would go. I would play Campbell at 1 and Brimson at 6, Fogarty at 7, or someone else at 7. I just think, yeah, that's the best move for the team. And ultimately, the Storm did really well to win. I know they only won by 14 points, but they tied the record for the most consecutive wins in a row. I think it's 19 of all time in the National Rugby League. Well, even dating back to 1908. So that's pretty incredible. And the Storm rested players. So a pretty alpha move from them. Didn't even play their full strength side, and still in the end managed to do it pretty comfortably, although the Titans did give them a bit of a scare. So yeah, well done to the Titans. They've actually managed to do pretty well in both games against the Storm this year, so that's a bit of an interesting matchup for them. And yeah, hopefully if the Titans keep that form up, they'll easily make top 8, and they'll be a bit of a dangerous side, I would have to say, if you're getting within 2 or 3 tries of the Storm when you play them, because I know there's a lot of teams that are managing aren't able to manage that right now, and the Storm just roll on. Really, as I mentioned, weren't even full strength and easily knocked off a team. So yeah, that moved us into Friday's 6 o'clock game, Raiders versus the Seagulls. And I have to say, I think I mentioned it in the preview last week, but this has turned into one of the better modern day rivalries for me. If we're thinking about rivalries that have sort of only started in the last 10 to 15 years, I think this is right up there. And I was doing some research, and this is actually the 5th game in 6 years that have been decided by less than 2 points. So they love a golden point. They love a field goal game. And that's exactly what this one was. The Raiders, they've been playing well, actually, the last 6 weeks. I think it's sort of gone unnoticed. They've had a really tough draw, and they don't play pretty at all, but they play really physical, and they manage to make every game they're in pretty close. So I know that Manly didn't have Turbo, but Manly without Turbo have put on some pretty good shows this year, obviously apart from the first month, but since then. So the Raiders to almost get the W, that was pretty impressive. Unfortunately, it's going to be a pretty costly loss. I think it might have seen their hopes of finals disappear, but there's still a lot of stones that have to be flipped, I guess, in terms of the story of the rest of the season. That a lot of pages have to be turned. So they've still got time to turn that around. They've just got to win out, really, from here. So that was a good win from Manly just to get the job done. Then the Panthers versus the Rabbitohs. This was the big game of the round. I was really excited for this one, and it lived up to expectation. It was pretty physical, pretty fast-paced, was like finals footy, really. And the Panthers ended up being too good for the Rabbitohs. The Rabbitohs started well, and it looked like they would have the potential to win the game in the first 20 minutes, but ultimately the Panthers were just too good for them. The Rabbitohs couldn't run the distance with them, and yeah, I think the Panthers sort of showed Sorry about that. I think the Panthers really showed the difference in class that we've sort of seen in the last 18 months, but maybe haven't been able to see in the last 6 weeks. So the Rabbitohs are still going to be a good team. It's a loss. I mentioned last week, whoever loses this, their title chances are gone. And look, I think the Rabbitohs' chances of winning the premiership are very, very slim. Like, if I had a pie chart and I was breaking down the percentages of everyone winning, I think they would be less than 5%. But that's not any slander. I think right now I'd have the Storm at about 70%. So I don't think many teams would have much percentage in my pie chart. But I wouldn't say I lost as much respect as I thought I was going to if they lost by 13 points to the Panthers here. The Rabbitohs back three just couldn't catch the ball, really. Cleary was putting up some spiral bombs. Mansour, I know he got injured, so I don't really want to talk shit about him, but he can't catch a thing. Johnston even looked shaky at times. Latrell shirked a couple. And they were, as they sort of are in the big games every time, their lack of ability in the forward pack sort of was the cost, like sort of was the end of them. And this is, I have to say, like, I don't like being too critical of players because, they're all just people like you and me. But the Rabbitohs spine, once again, didn't step up in a big game. And I just said the forwards lost the battle, and you can suggest that's why they didn't step up. But for me, a forward pack who's so highly talked about as this one, especially the halves, Walker and Reynolds. I think Cook does his best. I don't think he ever dominates a game from start to go, so you can't really expect him to turn a game on its head. He'll produce an odd run or here or there, and then Latrell. I actually thought Latrell was all right, but for me, Reynolds' kicking game was good. He obviously kicked that magical 40-20, the best 40-20 of all time. But Cody Walker in particular, there's talks of him. People saying he's going to win the Dally M. People saying he's the best player in the game. People saying he should play in New South Wales, but he never stands up in these big games. And I know it's hard to dominate if your forward pack's not winning, but if you're a player who's talked about in that echelon, you have to be good enough even when the tide's against you to able to turn a game, produce a line break that changes momentum and all that sort of stuff. And for me, once again, he just went absolutely missing. And it's sort of frustrating because, I'm getting a little bit sick of the media just hyping him up every time he has a stretch of good games against shit teams. And then he shows us time and time again that he's just a solid club player whenever he comes up against a big team. That moves us into Saturday. Good win by the Panthers, though. Moved us into Saturday at Rockhampton. This was a pretty shit game. Obviously, I'm a Tigers fan, which made it bad. But in general, the skills are really low. I know 70 points were scored, but I didn't think the Sharks were even that good in the first half. And then the Tigers were just woeful in the second half, and the Sharks took advantage of that. The Sharks back seven was just too good, too fast. I don't know what it is with the Tigers. There's something. Madge criticized it in the press conference, so I was wondering if that was a coaching technique, which I was really worried about because it seemed so stupid. But he criticized it, and that's the line speed. If you actually watch the Tigers, unlike every team who's ever played rugby league, we don't actually so the mark, let's say, is on the 35-meter line. When our first contact is made, it'll either be the 35-meter line or it might be even a couple meters behind that. We don't meet the attack, and that's why I think our defense is so bad, is because we're not meeting them with momentum. So we're sort of catching them, but our weight's on our heels. So they've already run 10 meters before we've touched them, and then they easily get 5 to 10 meters post contact. So you're giving them 15 to 20 meters of play. So you're just letting them walk out of their end. And that's something I've noticed pretty much since the middle of the year. And I'm really not sure where it stems from. It's most notable so if you set up at the scrum line on the right side and you do a switch play to the left, even if you're not, we don't make you draw and pass. We just sort of ease off, and you can just run and run and run. And even if you don't draw and pass, get a man through a line, you'll easily make 20 meters doing that. So, the Tigers really have to sort that out. I think it's a confidence thing. I think they think that as a team. They're not going to move up as a line, which doesn't make sense because you're with each other at every training session, surely. And that's what surely you've done your whole NRL career. But yeah, that's something that needs to be fixed because it really makes it hard to win games because you're letting them run 60 to 80 meters a set. Then you're doing all the tackling because all the ball's up your end. And in the last couple games, that's what's happened to us. I know we had a win over the Cowboys or whatever, but we've done a lot of tackling in the first 20 minutes and we've just been buggered by the time it gets to like the 60th minute. But the Sharks were good here. Luke Metcalf was really, really good. The youngster, he looks exciting. They've just got some really fast players, the Sharkies. Sadly, Mulatalo had a really, really bad broken jaw, but he played really well. Sione Katoa is always good on the wing. Connor Tracy, any position you put him in, he just has a real hard crack and runs hard onto the ball, which it seems easy to do. But if you're a Tigers fan, you know that it's not as common as you think. And yeah, well done to the Sharks, giving themselves a real chance in the finals hunt. I personally don't really want to see them make finals. I don't think they're the most interesting team, but yeah, if they win from here out, they'll probably get in and they deserve it. But yeah, the Tigers really disappointing. Don't want to talk too much about the Tigers because this is an NRL podcast, not a Tigers podcast, but I just thought I'd give my opinion on the whole Madge dilemma. For me, I would keep him because we've sacked about 3 coaches now in the last 6 or 7 years, and every time we've sacked one, it hasn't really changed the way our club has gone. So, you know, the saying, like, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Well, in this situation, our method is broken, so fix it. So, our solution's always been to just sack the coach when we feel like it's necessary, which right now it would be in the past. But for me, we're doing so poorly. I am happy to just give him another year and see how it goes. My brother reckons we should give him till the halfway mark of next year. I'm happy with that, or I'm happy with them just to say you've got all of next year. I know the Tigers are criticised for blaming Ivan Cleary, but the last of his horrible contracts that he signed are all done now. So Madge has essentially had the full salary cap to build a squad that he likes. And yeah, if he can't not necessarily improve on the ladder. I think it's going to be another tough year next year. But if we don't at least see a direction that the club is going in, they've brought in Sheens now to oversee the whole football club pretty much. And if we don't start to see a direction or a future, then I think you can move him on. But for me now, I just don't think you get much from sacking him. I think you bring in a average coach to replace him, and you're sort of stuck in the mess you are yet again. So Dewey also got injured in this one, which is really horrible news. He's been the standout, I would say, of the Tigers season. And I think he's actually one of the best 5'8" in the competition. I think he's really overlooked for being in a poor side, but it looks like he could be out for up to 7 months, which thankfully it's happened at the perfect time of the season for us. 7 months from now is pretty much round 2 or 3. So if it's as bad as it can be, it's still not horrible, but it's just really bad. Someone of his age, he's had knee problems in the past, not ideal, and also for him to miss out on a full preseason, it's going to be tough for him to fire next year, which really sucks for the Tigers. We do have Jackson Hastings coming in from England, along with Oliver Gildart. So they're going to be really interesting players to see, just even from, I would suggest from a neutral point of view. I always like seeing people come from the Super League and seeing how they go and adapt, but I watched a lot of Super League on the weekend, and Hastings has a reputation now, and Gildart looks like he's actually a pretty impressive player. So really excited for them to come on board. But yeah, for me, Madge, you just got to stick thick with him. If anyone should go, it's probably Justin Pascoe. He just doesn't seem like he's great at his job, but yeah, I'll just let it marinate because at this point, what have you got to lose? That moved us into the Bulldogs Knights. I have to say, this is one of the all-time worst Super Saturday lineups I've ever seen. I think 5 of the bottom 6 were in play or something like that. So I wasn't that keen going into it, and I didn't really miss out on anything good either. I didn't watch all of this game, but the Knights won by 6 points against the Bulldogs. I know Ockenbaugh scored a great try, but I didn't even see it, to be honest. The Knights just aren't looking great. I keep thinking there's going to be a week that just clicks for them and they're going to turn into show the potential that they have, but they just really look scrappy. I still have them coming 7th, I'll be honest with you, but I I'll be honest, if they come up against the Roosters or even the Eels, I think they might get a bit of a whipping in round one, but hopefully they can find some form between now and then. Yeah, they just don't look good at all, but well onto the Bulldogs, I guess, for almost upsetting a finals team. Then the Eels, Cowboys, once again, didn't watch much of this. The Eels were up, the Eels won. We knew they were going to win. They just did what they had to do. The Cowboys, really disappointing ever since the middle of the season. They've had an awful run home. And yeah, just like it, the Eels, it didn't impress me. I wouldn't suggest to anyone get back on their bandwagon or anything like that. I think they're still in a big spot of bother. Then Sunday afternoon footy, was at Townsville. Sorry, not Townsville, Toowoomba. Didn't know they even had a stadium there, but it looked like a good day of fun footy. Dragons Roosters actually put on a bit of a show, to be honest. The first 60 minutes was really, really good. Back and forth action. The Dragons looked physical, fast, exactly like they did the week before. I think it was against the Panthers. And then once again, they got gassed out. This is seriously an issue for the Dragons, but the Roosters just stormed home, scored about 4 tries in 15 minutes or something to close out the game. And yeah, Teddy had another cracker. Some of the young guys for the Dragons looked really, really good. So that's a promising sign for them. And yeah, good win for the Roosters. They look like they're going to be an interesting team in finals, to be honest, because we've pretty much every week they have about 2 or 3 outs. So we're never, like, I know Luke Keary and stuff like that, Lindsay Collins, they're actually out for the year, but we don't really know what they're going to be like when they're full strength without the players who are out for the season, obviously. So, yeah, I don't know where to put the Roosters right now in terms of like a power rankings or something, and then that led to the game of the week for me, Broncos versus the Warriors. This was an awesome game, to be honest. Back and forth all day. Ref controversy, which is like, as much as we hate it, it's good fun to watch. With the hand of God, you could call it. I can't remember who was involved. I feel like it was Ewan Aitken and Xavier Coates and something, and there was a ball. To me, it was grounded by Coates, and they somehow claimed that Aitken put it down. I'm pretty sure that's what happened, but it was something like that. The Warriors got a try. It just wasn't a try. Even the commentators were like, "What?" I heard the bunker ref say that Aitken grounded the ball, and I was like, "What?" And the ref's like, "The commentators didn't hear that part." And then, like 5 seconds later, they saw the try sign, and they were like so confused. But yeah, Walsh ended up losing the game for the Warriors. I hate to put it all on one player, but when it comes down to kicking, it's pretty easy to pin it on someone, unfortunately, for Reece Walsh. I think he kicked 1 from 5 or something like that. I think the Warriors scored one more try than the Broncos. Broncos didn't miss a kick, if I'm not mistaken. Milford was really good. I don't want to put too much pressure on him. I just want him to enjoy his footy. He actually looked like he had a lot of fun on Sunday. He was just running around, running plays on the fifth, chipping and chasing, throwing balls to Tessie New. They look like they could be a good combo for the future. But yeah, well on to Milford. Probably played himself into a better contract for next year. So yeah, looking forward to see if Milford can keep that form, because I don't know about you, but my family was up on their feet when Milford got the ball on Sunday, which is what we love to see from him. All right, moving into my top 8. My prediction has it's changed a little bit this week, and I'm not really sure why. I must have predicted the Seagulls to lose to the Raiders when I did my ladder predictor, but I have the Storm, Panthers, Rabbits 1, 2, 3, and then I've got Manly leapfrogging the Roosters to come 4th. Got the Roosters in at 5th, the Eels in at 6th, the Knights in at 7th, and then I've got the Titans in at 8th. And now I actually have no one missing out on points difference. I've got everyone a full win back. So to me, it's a clear-cut top 8. I really do need to look back on my top 8 prediction. I'm interested. I listened to my Tigers prediction. I think I was like 1 spot off. I think I said they're like 12th, and I think they're going to come like 13th. So, well, actually, I don't know where they're going to come, but yeah, looks like a good top 8. Manly Storm round 1, if it stays the way it is, that's going to be really exciting. Even Roosters Titans could pose a bit of a threat. If the Eels come 6th, the Eels Knights matchup, I have to say that could be a bit of a snooze fest, but who knows? Hopefully Kalen Ponga can tear them apart. All right, that moves us into my middle section that I'm doing today. Sort of given a break to the middle section. Actually, Sorry, I need to chat about the Super League rivalry round. I've completely forgot that, but that was actually a big part of my weekend. I watched two of the big games. Watched Wigan versus St. Helens, which was absolutely incredible. If you own Foxtel or KO, please go watch that game. It is like actually nothing like I've ever seen before. So I have to say to the Super League, it's a really good product. If you, well, as I said before, if you have KO or something, I legit reckon tune in. All I do is I check the scores, and when there's a big game, I maybe watch it on a Sunday morning or something because you don't want to stay up till bloody 3 a.m. watching. I'm not that committed. Actually, that's what I did for the whole derby on the weekend, but don't recommend it. But yeah, it's just I love it. The coverage is awesome. Like the statistical analysis, they at halftime, they get up the video footage, make some really really good and analytical points about the players and the way the game's going. I just think the coverage is awesome, and also in general, the league do a great job of promoting a game where, like, it's not the number one sport. Well, it's not necessarily the number one sport here, but it's not as dominant over there. And for me, that's probably part of the reason. Like here, we're a big sport, but we're so focused on what's wrong with the game, how we can be better. But rather than that, they just celebrate their game, and they talk about it in such a positive light. They promote it so well. Like they've got rivalry round. They're the ones who created the Magic round. If you didn't know that, they've got one coming up in 2 weeks at the Newcastle soccer ground, which should be really exciting if they can get a big crowd into that. But yeah, rivalry round was this week, and Wigan, St. Helens, arguably the biggest rivalry in English rugby league right now, and it was crazy. Like there was this guy called Willie Isa. I don't know much about him, never really heard of him. He was an absolute lunatic. Bloke tried to get sent off about 3 times. And yeah, man was an absolute cook up. Finally got sin-binned about the 4th time. He genuinely should have been sent off. Like some of the things he was doing, I was like, what the hell is going on? It was so physical. Wigan didn't show up, which was disappointing. But yeah, there was a lot of NRL players on show. And there was some awesome English talent. So I really recommend going and watching that one. Also, watch the last 20 minutes of the Hull derby. That was an incredible game, back and forth the whole time. One stand was full of the Hull KR fans, all red and white. The other 3 stands were full of the Hull FC fans, all white and black. And yeah, it's just a great spectacle. There's singing, there's chanting, which is such a cool thing to see. I wish we could bring that to our game here. And there was a great finish to it, really. So I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, I really recommend watching Wigan St. Helens and Hull versus Hull if you can. Maybe just a highlights package or something on YouTube. But if you have watched it or you live in England and follow the Super League, let me know because I'm really interested to know more. Really enjoying what is going on over there right now. I think there's 5 rounds and then there's finals. So it's a really good time to get into it. And this is I think this is the closest season there's been in a while. The last few years, St. Helens has sort of just run it in home. So.
It's a miracle! Oh, yeah! What about that one? No! Unbelievable! Balotelli! Aguero! Crowd cheers. Here's Siddle.